Hello and welcome. This is Kristen from the Online Selling Show, and I'm here today with a special episode about why I don't use VAs. I have no plan to hire VAs. I'm bringing this topic up today because it is right after the Christmas season. We're coming into the new year of 2025. And if you're going to be out there, I just did an episode on planning what's going to happen for me in the next, planning for the new year. You're probably going to come across a lot of people touting the need for a VA, why you need to have VAs, that you can't scale or be successful without VAs. And I'm just going to give you my perspective. And again, it's just my perspective. It's my opinion. I'm not saying that it won't work for you. I'm just going to give you a perspective as to why I have consciously chosen to not use VAs. I have used VAs many different ways and many different instances. One of the things I'm going to say right off the bat is you have to understand what your style of management is. What is the level of expectation that you have for work? I'm going to give you a brief history for me to understand why it didn't work for me. What types of people did I use for VAs? I went through various ones. I used people who were in agencies that you could just hire the agency and give them the instructions of what you wanted done. They would do it. I used agencies that they just sold you on what they were going to do, meaning that if you had an Amazon suppressed listings, they take care of that. You didn't even have to give them the process. I hired my own individual VAs. I had an organization that was using VAs apparently for a long period of time, and they just made their VAs available to you. And basically it was supposedly vetted. You just needed to give them the instructions. I did many different types of things in trying to hire and manage VAs. I gave them very well thought out instructions, step by step, with screenshots. I did videos. I did all levels of, I gave them a kew listings and let them try that, and then, graded them on that and went back and then gave them another test and keep building up. I did many, many different things to try and make it work. And at the end of it all, I realized, I kind of knew my management style. My history is that I managed I managed 6 probation officers and 2 secretaries in a very specialized unit for the judiciary system. And I know that the level of employees that I had been very well vetted through the division, because the level of what I dealt with, they had to be very work efficient, A-level work. A bad day for these people were like B grade level work, because I dealt with directives that came out of the Superior Court of New Jersey, meaning we had no wiggle room on our interpretation of things. We had to get it done. They dealt with each other very well. We had to rely on each other through thick and thin. We were considered essential. So when there was things like state closures, we still went in. So I didn't have the people that just decided they weren't going to come in today because it's the day after Christmas and I just want to stay home. They were very conscientious of what their actions meant if they decided to just arbitrarily call out. They, a lot of times, even handled things like who was going to take over certain roles if they took a day off. So there was a lot of very professionalism going on in this team. And I knew very early on that I am more of a leader versus a manager, and there is a very big distinction there. And one of the things that I realized is that I am a person who likes to relate to the people. I build these lasting relationships. It's a lot more networking. I don't like to be very hands-on and micromanaging people. I like to give them the general scope of what the project is, my expectations of what the output's going to be. I give them a lot of leeway in how they can handle some of the things. Like I said, I was not somebody who's going to sit there and tell them that they have to be, from 9 to 10 handling something in this direction. I just did not handle all of that. I'm very much, like I said, about letting people have their own breathing space. And you cannot be that way a lot with these VAs. one of the things I found was that, in the beginning, they will make a lot of promises. You will get A-level work, but my management style made it gravitate towards people who at the beginning may be very, very professional, but those types of people, when you're dealing with VAs, are either the manager or the owner of a VA company, or they are going to get very entrepreneurial and they'll start bringing in other people, like their spouses, their family, their siblings, other people they would hire, because they're dealing with these VA businesses because they need that income. They're in these third world countries, and I had to do a lot of sifting and sorting through the years because I dealt mainly with a lot of Christmas goods, which means I was dealing with a lot of cultures that didn't even celebrate Christmas. Even if they were Christians, it took me a bit to get through. They didn't understand things like tree toppers or tree skirts. They didn't know what those were. They don't have them in those kind of cultures, even though they celebrate Christmas. It took a bit for me, and you have to understand also, I got into this in the very bottom floor of when eBay came in, when Amazon started to grow. So there wasn't a lot of people out there doing what I was doing. I was the trendsetter at the period of time that I was starting to get into this, and I had to sort through and find the people who could do what level of work I needed them to do. The other thing that happens, I mentioned I worked for the state of New Jersey. When you're in government, if you're not aware, I'm sure you probably have an idea, but I never fired anybody. I never had to really formally discipline anybody. I did, but I didn't. And you may be like scratching your head or being like, duh. Or here's the deal. When you work for a state government like myself, okay, if we got into doing formal discipline, that means the union came in and everything. Those things went to HR. I never fired anybody. I may have had to do some writing up of what was going on in people's daily work or something like that. But the physical facing of these people to fire them or putting a formal discipline together to go in their file, that all went to HR. So what did that mean to me as a business manager? If you're a person wanting to get into this and you start hiring the VAs and stuff, you formally have to fire these people. You have to give them an explanation. And you know what? I'm not the kind of person who wants to just say, bye. I'm a leader. I said, I'm a leader versus a manager. And that meant that I'm there investing to the person, where a manager is investing to the job. I had to learn the distinctions of these, because if something went wrong, I took it that there was a problem wrong with me and my expectations and the flow of the work or the procedure of how I was getting stuff out there. So I would just keep kind of changing those things around. Okay, well, maybe this person should only deal with this aspect of it, or maybe I need to give them a better video, or maybe, and I would basically get to the point where the person was firing me, because in a leader mentality, a leader wants to set up the environment to uplift people. And I'm not saying managers don't. Managers tend to, like I said, manage the task, and they're very efficient at saying, okay, you don't have the skill set to manage this. You need to go, because they're at that management level saying, this is the task, where I'm looking at, this is the business. And it doesn't always work. So this is where you have to get in and understand how comfortable you're going to be in continuing to fire people to get to that level of getting that. Are you the manager to keep firing and firing and firing? It wasn't in me for that level of because I want to build the relationships, the networking, and I, like I said, would go in and I would basically always get to the point where I was dealing with the person who was the owner or the highest level of skilled person. And they would get to a point where it was like they couldn't keep producing the A-level work. And for me, the brands that I have, I'm a person of, I believe, when I give my word, I mean what I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. And if I say I'm paying you on Friday, you're getting paid on Friday. If your work's supposed to be done on Friday, I expect your work's going to be done on Friday. And it really is hurtful to me to continue to keep getting the excuses, because I'm looking at it as a failure to myself. I'm looking at it as I need to refine things and change it. And then it gets to the point where they can't keep basically giving me the brush off. They can't keep lying to me that the work's going to get done. And then it gets to a very contentious situation and we part ways, versus me just having fired them from the beginning. So I tend to keep putting stuff back on my plate. And at that point, I'm either willing to pay this person more than I should be, or it's gotten contentious and I'm back to doing the work myself anyway. This isn't scalable. I know there's going to be people out there talking about, if you want this, big high level income and everything else, that you have to, get yourself out of the workflow and everything. And, the work's going to own you. You're not going to own the business. I understand all of that. I have made my business as efficient as I can with the level of income built on the brands that I carry. And I'm going to tell you that I need in my fiber of being A-level work. I think some of the businesses that I do business with want their brand represented with A-level work, which is why I think some of these brands have stayed with me and I with them. And you have to just get an understanding of what's comfortable for you. What is it you want? I don't need a $10 million grossing business in a year, because I have found I've had 7-figure businesses that my level of profitability was not any better than where I am currently. That yes, I am more hands-on, but you know what? I have built such a way of handling the business that I'm handling it as much as I want to or need to. If I need to do something more, then yes, I will go see if I can hire on a temporary basis for those things. But that's where this gets out of now from me personally into questions you must ask for yourself. Because my understanding is where I want to be in my business. You're going to have to ask yourself is, do you realistically see yourself wanting to have that $10 million business? If that's the case, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to get other people to do the work for you. And you're also going to have to figure out what is the level of, software and things like that you want, because you're going to have to invest in the software and you're going to have to invest in the people. Me personally, I have the software that's working for me. I don't need to go be paying a lot more money for a lot more bells and whistles. I have the brands that I want to deal with. I don't need to go research it and keep going into these big growths of other places. Should I possibly be looking? Yes, I do have an evaluation as to, who the competitors are and where I would shift or move should I choose to. These are the things you're going to have to question yourself on, is where your level expectations are. If you're not aware of whether you're a manager or you're a leader, those are some things out there you could be doing research on. I highly, highly recommend that you understand that from the beginning. Can I be a manager if I need to? Yes, I've had to do it. Can a manager be a leader? I'm going to question that. I don't know. I don't know. I do think that a manager wanting to be a leader will need to do a lot of self-assessment and do a lot of training and research. And I believe the same is true on the opposite. I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I made a lot of errors. I have had a lot of self-reflection. I'm sure there's a lot of people that I have managed that did not care for me. And probably I have to apologize to them, because I wasn't at the level of maturity in my business world as I am now. And I've had to also learn the differences of being a leader, a manager, and an entrepreneur. There is a distinction in that as well. And that is, again, training, education. There are things you have to invest in yourself. And I would highly recommend you do those things before somebody convinces you to start spending your money and getting into hiring the VAs and everything else, because the VAs are going to have certain expectations, and I don't blame them. They're going to want to know that they can count on you for that, let's say 5 hours of work a week every week. And you may say to yourself, well, that's what I'm going to have. Well, if you haven't done the evaluation to know what you're giving them for 5 hours a week every week, it's not fair to them to think that they have a client. It may be no different than you getting hired for a job and they hire you for that 5 hours. You work 3 weeks at 5 hours a week, and then they just leave you hanging for a month before they think about what the next thing is they want to give you. That's the level of what I'm talking about. And you also have to have something in there as a checks and balances of, okay, I gave them 5 hours a week. I did this for 4 weeks. What is my expectation of them to do for my business after those 20 hours of paid work? Is it the expectation is that they maybe took all the photos for you so that your death pile can be listed? If that's the case, make it known ahead of time in your head what that person's doing for you. I had expectations of what they were doing for me, and truthfully, I never was able to even stop. And like, I was paying somebody, let's say, to look at my suppressed listings and manage my suppressed listings for me. Well, you know what? I never really went back and double checked to make sure that they kept up on those suppressed listings. And if I wasn't double checking, then why was I even paying these people? Because you have to have a checks and balances. When you took classes in school, you took tests. You had an expectation that your teacher was going to grade that test and give it back. There's a two-way street going here, and I wasn't doing my part. And you know what? If it wasn't a passing grade, whatever the passing grade is you come up with, you have to be prepared to fire them. There's a saying about hire slowly and fire quickly. I wasn't doing any of that, and I was wasting more money. And I've now been able to get to a level in our business where we know where we need to be financially for us to be comfortable with our bills. I have found a way to be efficient about getting the work done to get to that level. Do I need to hire somebody periodically? Yes. Can I hire them and deal with them to get them through? Yes. I don't do it on an ongoing basis. It is a temporary with a defined beginning and end, and that is it. That's what I'm comfortable with. That's what I'm fine with. And truthfully, that's all I expect to do. Could you want more or less? Sure. But just be a little bit more educated on it. Don't let these people convince you that this is what it needs to be. Because if you're just going into it for a couple extra $1,000 a month, maybe to pay a bill, maybe you're just going into it for a hobby business. Don't let them sweep you up into the conversation about what it takes to be a big business. It really depends on what it is you want it to be. I would highly, highly appreciate any comments down below. What was your thoughts? Have you dealt with them? Have you not dealt with them? Would you like to deal with them? Is there questions I can help you with in answering as to, knowing if the VAs will be good for you or not? I'd be happy to help. Like I said, I've just felt that firing the VAs out of my business works for me. Maybe it's not the thing that needs to be done for you. And I just tell you, it is a human resources based type of business. It's people's livelihoods, and I don't want to tread lightly on other people's feelings and work and their finances and stuff. So I have chosen to just remove myself from it. That's my decision. I would appreciate a thumbs up if you got any good content. Like I said, leave some comments down below, and I would really appreciate if you would hit that subscribe button and help me grow the channel. And I'm going to catch you in the next one.